years. 19 years was the amount of time that as a Jewish people, we did not have access to Harazatim and to the people buried on it. It was 19 years in which the Jordanians destroyed Harazatim. Now, Harazatim, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a cemetery in Israel. When you go to the Kotel area, Harabayit, you could, and you look out, you see the graves. Harazatim is the longest functioning cemetery in the world, the oldest functioning cemetery. There's graves there from the time of the first Beit HaMikdash, and today people are still being buried. Now, when the Jordanians were in control, when Jerusalem was divided, they took the tombstones and they used them to pave the streets. Except there was one grave that remained untouched. And when we came back in 1967 and we went to Harazatim, we found out which grave it was. And the one grave that was untouched, everything fine, was the grave belonging to Rav Kook. Who was Rav Kook? So the short answer in one sentence is that he was the first chief rabbi of Israel. There was no concept of chief rabbi of Israel until he started it. We're going to talk a little bit later on about why he felt the need for there to be an office of the chief rabbi. What does it mean? So he started it. Now, if you would like to see a picture of what he looks like, you could do a quick Google search, Rav Kook. Like I said, I had pictures planned, but the slideshow didn't work, so it's fine. There were three things which Rav Kook led his life by. Oh my gosh, I forgot the most important part. Okay. We're all confused now, thrown off by here's the most important part. Why was his grave the only one not destroyed? Now, it wasn't magic, although it's nice to believe, to think God was protecting, and that's not why. There's actually why was his one grave not destroyed? So they went to the Jordanians and they asked them, why is his grave still left? And they said, because we had strict orders not to destroy this grave. Why? Because they said this man, when he was alive, he was so fair. If we would come to him with a problem in court, he wouldn't say, oh, it's Arabs against Jews. Obviously the Jews are right. He would really deal with us fairly. And because of how fair he dealt with us, we decided to preserve his grave, which is an unbelievable thing. So now, springboarding off of that, who was this man that he's one of the only of that section, one of the graves preserved. And we said he was the first chief rabbi. And there were three things which I believe really he led his life by. And it was love. His life was a love story. He had love for three great things. He had love for the land of Israel. He had love for the people of Israel, and he had love for God. And what I want to do today is talk about these three areas that he loves and ask ourselves where we fall on the scale. And we will see that Rav Kook gives us a lot to strive for. And hopefully we could all be at that level, but I think it's really inspiring to hear about where other people lead. Okay, first question. I can't hear your answers, but I'm going to ask anyway. How many of you are dealing with the issue of having your kids home this summer and you're not really sure what to do with them? Is there camp? Is there no camp? Oh, yay, I'm the host. Okay, hold on. Oh, yay, I could share my screen. Okay, finally. Thank you. Shout out to Amy Bailey who fixed this into AV, who just fixed it now. Okay. Now here we go. So this is a picture of Harazatim, and we see in the background Han Habayit. And this is a picture of Rav Kook's grave. Now I want you to notice that there's three things written on it. One is the day, well, it's 3 dates. We have the date that he was born, the date that he went to Yerushalayim, and when he passed away. So for him, going to Yerushalayim, and we're going to talk about where he comes from, where he spent time in Israel. Going to Yerushalayim was such a big thing for him that he wanted that written on his grave. And notice it doesn't say chief rabbi or anything, it says rabbi. Okay, here's a picture of Rav Kook. He lived from 1865 to 1935. I put these two pictures because usually when people show, people see pictures of him, it's one of these two. So just so you're familiar with both of them, this is what he looks like. And now we're going to start with the love of Israel. Okay. So So I asked you how many of you are dealing with kids being home, not knowing what to do, maybe with yourself not knowing what to do. So I want to tell you something that when Rav Kook was a little boy in school, what he used to do with his friends at recess. So he says that he used to have his friends all lined up, and they'd have their backpacks on their shoulder, and he'd ask them, "Where are you going?" And they'd say, "We're going to Eretz Yisrael," kind of like Mish'ar Tam, but every single day for recess. And I want you to think for a minute the impact that would have on your love of Israel as a child growing up, if this is what you're doing in recess. Imagine that's what your kids are doing in camp. You know, activity, not dodgeball, is pretend to go to Israel. Or that's what your kids do when they play with each other. I think it's remarkable that he was so connected from so young, and this is what he's getting all the boys to do in recess. And that's a story from his youth. So his love of Israel really started from a young age. Another thing I want to share with you. So Rav Kook, when he was 39, he moved to Israel to become the rabbi of Yaakov. And then later on, he became the rabbi of Jerusalem and eventually the chief rabbi of Israel. And one day he was on his way to Tel Aviv and the car broke down. Okay, everybody got out. And it was going to be a while until they were able to fix it. So whoever was there, everyone started spreading. Okay, after an hour goes by, they find Rav Kook and they see him sprawled on the floor. And what is he doing? He's looking down at the earth of Israel and he's saying, Admati, Admati, Admat Eretz Yisrael HaKadosha. He's so excited by the land. That's what he chooses to do. His car breaks down. He says, great, let me go just enjoy the land of Israel. I don't know if my car broke down, if that's exactly what I do with my time. Oh, let me just go enjoy. And then he stood up and he goes, I don't remember the last time I got to interact with Mother Earth this way. And the land of Israel, it wants the Jewish people so badly. And now I just got to interact with Earth. So this is what he chose to do when the car broke down, which shows his connection and how an annoying situation he's just able to flip around like that. Okay. Now, and at the end of this class, I'm going to tell you where I got all my stories from and recommend that you read the book that I read because I can't tell every story in the book. A young woman says that one day she was going on a walk with her dad in Jerusalem and they saw Rav Kook. So Rav Kook spoke to her dad, he pulled his dad aside, whispered something to him, and then went on his way. So the girl says, Dad, what did he tell you? Like, why did he bring you aside? What do you want to show you? So the dad answers, he wanted to show me that what he discovered today is at the edge of the road, there's a flower growing. And he says, look, there's a new flower growing in Yerushalayim. He appreciated the land of Israel so much. A little flower he sees growing on the side of the road was enough for him to pull over her dad, point it out, show it to him, and be so excited. And if a person could be so excited by such small things in life, by the blades of grass that are going that are Israel, or a flower, like imagine even bigger things what it would be. I think it's so beautiful to be able to look at your life like that. Okay. So aliyah is a topic that people talk about a lot, and it's not only a modern topic. For years and years and years, people are talking about moving to the land of Israel. And they asked Rav Kook once, they said, why are you always pushing people to move to Israel? In his time from Europe, they were pushing people. He goes, Israel has problems. There's Arabs that attack the Jews. Okay, so Poland has problems too. America has problems too. But why move to Israel when it's a problematic country? So he answered in a really creative way. He goes, there's two conditions or states, let's say. One, you have a person that's in old age, someone's degenerating, getting older, and you have somebody, and no one really wants that, but you're not afraid of it. And then on the other hand, you have a condition which is a serious medical condition, but it's one that everybody wants. And that's labor, that's birth. Everybody wants birth. So he said that's exactly how it works with the problems outside of Israel and the problems in the land of Israel. The problems that troubles outside of Israel are like sicknesses of getting old. And the problems in Israel are birthing pains, and everybody wants that. So just even to put into perspective how he sees troubles in one country and how he sees troubles in another. He spent time in America because, a lot of people experience that there's rabbis that come from Israel because they want to raise money for yeshiva. So in Rav Kook's time, it was the same thing. He spent time in America because he wanted to raise money for the communities and for yeshiva. And he met this man who was very well off, rich, nice house, and he spoke to the man and he asked him, he said, do you want? He gave him a whole long list of reasons why he can't move to Israel. All very, very good reasons because of this and this and this and this and this. And then he ends his speech. He says, but as a lot of people, we're used to ending our sentences, a lot of Jewish people, God willing, if God wants, if God wants. So he says, if God wants, then I'll also make aliyah soon. So Kook smiles and looks at him and he says, God wants it. He wants his children to move to the land of Israel. That's one of the mitzvot. The question is, do you want it? Don't blame it on God. So I like that. I thought that was a cute story. To edit Swiss Alps to become a rabbi in Yaffa. He didn't want to leave Israel. As far as he's concerned, he never ever wanted to leave. And I mentioned a minute ago that he went to America to collect money, which was later on once he was already chief rabbi. They had in Europe this big delegation of all rabbis, and even though Rav Kook didn't want to leave Israel, he felt that it was very important to go to it. So he said, okay, I'm going to go because this is worth it enough reason. And then what happened, unfortunately for him, he got to Europe and World War I broke out. And there was no possible way he could get back to Israel. He tried everything, he cannot get back, and he slept there for a few years. He was in Switzerland for a while, and the community in London asked him to be the rabbi there. So he went to London, and he said, but this is conditional. No, the second I can move to Israel, moving to Israel, and then he did. And the community, when he was still in Switzerland, they look at him, and they see that he's so depressed and he's so sad because he wanted to be in Israel so badly. And they said, okay, we want to do something to cheer him up. So they put him in a car, and they start driving. And then they go, look at the mountains, look at the beautiful Swiss mountains. So the whole way he's depressed, he's not looking at the windows. Then they say that. He picks up his head, he looks at the mountains, he smiles, he goes, mountains, Yerushalayim harim saviv la. Jerusalem is mountains around it. So right away he sees it, and he finds something, a way to connect it to Yerushalayim, and it makes him happy. And it shows how, no matter where he was, we have the famous line of the Yehuda Halevi, literally, Rav Kook could be anywhere, and his heart and soul was always in Yerushalayim. I want to add, when he was in America, there was a Jew that asked him, a Jew that told him this. He was at a dinner and he said, I'm going to give you a big donation on one condition. If you can answer this question. So he said, let's go out. He goes, how come at the end of Leila Seder, the Jews in America say, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, and the Jews in Israel say that too? Because if you're in Israel, you're obviously there already. So why didn't you say L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim? So he answered it like this. He said, one, obviously the Jews in America, they want to be there. So they said, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. And the way Rav Kook explained it, he says, a person has their mind and their heart. And when a person who doesn't live in Israel comes and visits, and then you go back home, it's because you have things. You can't just drop your life. You have to go back to things. He says, but the heart of a Jewish person, your heart wants to be in Israel. And then he said, okay, well, so you're saying Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, you want to go to Israel. What about the people that already live here? He says, well, our version is the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. And we want Yerushalayim to be built. And now, if you, God willing, really, Bekarov, you could all come visit Israel. The amount of building going on is crazy. I just got a WhatsApp message yesterday where, so the block that I live on, there's this group, there's people that live on the block that have a WhatsApp chat. So someone posted that the city of Jerusalem has a plan to knock down all the 4-story buildings and make it 18 stories. So literally, it is Yerushalayim. And he said, but still, even if a person is in Yerushalayim and they live here, we want to make sure that we're here with our heart, body, mind, and soul. Because we don't want to be in Jerusalem, but our money is, okay, I want to go on a trip here, I want to go on a trip there. So he said everyone could benefit from the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, from saying that sentence, connecting to it as deep as you can. When Rav Kook was in America, he saw how beautiful it was. America has a lot of beauty. And for those of you that didn't deal, everything's green and you buy the ocean. It's really, really gorgeous. And then he came back to Israel. And when he was in the car in Israel, he mentioned to the people that he was sitting with, and I want to, so I have it in Hebrew and I'm going to translate. So he says, "B'Amerika ra'iti harim gvohim." Gam b'Amerika, that he saw high mountains in America, and the mountains in America. So the mountains you see in this picture is the Adirondack Mountain. Google it. And that's the work of God. The mountains everywhere God created. But, and here's the clincher, he says, Those mountains outside of Israel in America are quiet. They didn't speak to us, but these mountains, Eretz Yisrael, Kodesh, are the holy mountains. They speak to us. They speak in a clear language, and their voice enters our hearts. So, in Rav Kook's opinion, that's how he separates the beauty of the world and the beauty in Eretz Yisrael. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives beauty everywhere, but in Israel, the land speaks back to you. So I think that's just a beautiful way how he characterized it. So that kind of shows, so we saw a little bit about his connection to Eretz Yisrael, one of his great loves. Okay, now let's talk about Rav Kook's love for people. There's that says that when Avraham Avinu was in Aram Naharaim, before he got to Eretz Canaan, he looked at the people and he saw them eating and drinking and having a good time, and he said, I hope that this is not going to be my land. And then he gets to Sulama Shel Tzod. Tzod is Tyre, which is north of Israel. So he starts, which is other words for Israel. So he starts coming into Eretz Yisrael. He's high up, and he sees that the people are involved in taking the weeds out and hoeing the land. And he says, I hope my portion will be in this land. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Abraham, I'm going to give you our children this land. Okay, so keep this in mind. What is really, really unique about Rav Kook, and all these stories that I'm going to tell you about him, well, you guys will conclude on what's so unique about him, and through these stories I'm going to be sharing in facts about his life, was he loved everybody, especially the non-religious pioneers that were working the land. And a lot of people had problems with them because they said, he's sitting and working the land, but you don't keep kosher, you don't keep the mitzvah, you don't keep Shabbat. And there was very, very big friction. Today, there's still this kind of friction between the very religious people and the Chiloni people, because they said, you're not even keeping mitzvah, you're not doing anything. Now, when in 1913, Rav Kook, he went on this mission with 9 other rabbis, and they went to all the little towns that were springing up in the Galil, which is up north in the Shomron. And the purpose of their mission was to go to the towns and encourage them to keep kashrut and to keep whatever that they could. And he gets to one town and he decides, this is how I want to get to the people. He changes clothes. He wears clothing of the guards of the clothing. He gets on a horse and he rides right in. Now, when these pioneers see this chief rabbi and he's riding on a horse, of course their ears are open to hear him. And he, in his magical way, spoke to them. And by the end, they were convinced they want to keep kashrut. And then he told them something really nice. He goes, I changed into your clothes. He's wearing the simple clothes of a guard. Now I want you guys to wear my clothes. And what's his clothes? His clothes are tefillin and a talis. So that's a beautiful way how he wants to get to the people. The way Rav Kook saw it, he said these people, we saw in the Midrash that Abraham was so amazed by the fact that people were working the land. Rav Kook was enthralled by it. He said, this is so beautiful. There's no holier work than working the land. And the fact that they weren't religious, he believed that if they had left Judaism, then there was something really valid and a real reason. They wouldn't just discard it. And one of the huge changes that Rav Kook made, and one of the reasons why his name is so famous, and he's considered the father of religious Zionism, and to change the way a lot of people see the nation of Israel, was because he said, we're in Eretz Yisrael now. We need to look at Halacha again. We need to look at how we view ourselves as a nation. We have a different head, and he had a lot of views of the nation that people didn't have when they didn't live in Eretz Yisrael. And he saw these pioneers, the fact that they weren't religious, it didn't bother him, and he was able to get to them in love and bring them close to him. He believed love was the way to go about everything. One day he was in Hadera, which is another town, and he was speaking between Mincha and Anbit. And there in the back of the room was a simple man in work clothing, and he caught Rav Kook's eye. So after Anbit, he went and he spoke to him, and he took interest in the man. He said, what do you do? He said, I work in the beehive. Can I see it? Sure. So they went and they looked at the bees. And as they're standing there, one of the bees flew out and landed on Rav Kook's tzitzit. And he goes, wow, even the bees in Israel are so special because they also love the mitzvah. The bee in Eretz Yisrael, the bee just landed in my seat because it wants to give it a kiss. What a way! A bee lands on me. I scream at it. I want it to sting me. A bee lands on him. Wow, it's so special. The bees of Eretz Yisrael that they love the mitzvah. And this is really the kind of person that he had. He just had this positive perspective about everything. Rabbi in Yaakov, his students around him saw that he was getting tons and tons of visitors at all hours of the day. And they said this is not okay because for the health of our rabbi, he needs some rest. He can't nonstop have visitors. So they put a sign on the door, visiting hours, this fine. And the next day they went back to the door and they saw that the sign was gone. Okay, they wrote another one. They put it on the door and the next day it was gone again. So they investigated the matter. They said it can't be every time you write the sign it disappears. And they discovered that the reason why the sign kept disappearing was because it was none other than Rav Kook himself who kept removing the sign. They asked him, why are you taking the sign off? And he said, because I don't work, I'm not a private individual. I work for the people. And when you work for the people of Israel, you need to be available 24/7. And that's what he believed. He was always available to the people. Now he had a stamp when he would write letters and things out. This isn't what it looks like. It's my rendition of it, but you can find, like, there are copies of it. And on his stamp it would say, Eved le'am kodesh ala mad kodesh, is that the way Rav Kook saw himself was a slave to a holy nation on the Holy Land. And he genuinely meant it. He writes that if he ever would feel overwhelmed or burdened from all the things that were going on, and we're going to speak in a few minutes about some of the things that he had to deal with, he would take a minute and remind himself and say, look what you're doing. You are serving the nation of Israel and the land of Israel. What higher goal is there than that? And when he would remind himself that, that would bring him enjoyment. That was his playtime, and he'd remind himself of that, and it helped the stress dissipate. And when I read about that, what he's writing, so it makes me ask myself that, do I see my life as part of a bigger picture? Because that's what comforted him. He said, wait a minute, okay, this is a really annoying thing you're dealing with, but look at this big picture. So I ask ourselves, in our life, is there a bigger picture to our life? Okay. When you're a rabbi, you will most certainly, or okay, I'm not only going to say rabbi, if you're a rabbi or in a position, a public position, there's going to be tons of people that love you. There are going to be tons of people that don't. And I'm saying it lightly, that don't, there'll be people that hate you. And Rav Kook had no shortage of people that hated him. And I'm going to talk over the next few slides about some of the things that people did that did not like him. One of the rabbis, so the Haredim, they didn't really agree with Rav Kook, because I said Rav Kook, he was very accepting to the pioneers that were not religious, and he had a very open way of thinking. And Haredim are more closed-minded because they're afraid that people are going to leave Judaism. So, and the way they are, it has its roots back in Europe and in the Enlightenment, and they were scared. So the Haredim, and there was this rabbi, his name was Rav Chaim Zonenfeld, and him and Rav Kook, they're enemies. He is the head of the Haredim, and Rav Kook is not. Except, even though these two rabbis are enemies and they don't agree with each other and they think the other person is completely wrong, they were such good friends. And the story is told that Rav Chaim and Rav Kook were both invited to the same house. There was a Brit Milah. One of them was going to be Mohel, one of them was going to say the Berachot. And they got to the door at the same time. And they looked at each other and they said, okay, you go first. Rav Kook says to Rav Chaim, you go first. Rav Chaim says, no, you go first. These are two people. Another. And they're arguing over who's going to go in first because of the tremendous respect they had for one another, which shows that even if you disagree with someone, you don't have to make it this personal fight and attack their character. You could disagree with what they say, but you could still be friends with them and be respectful. And what they did is, so if you see in this picture, so this is obviously not the house, but there's two doors. So they found a way to unlock the second door, and then they walked in holding hands together. So you have two people that are enemies, and this is what they're doing, which brings me to politics. And for those of you that follow Israeli news, so it took a very long time for government to be formed because you have Benny Gantz and Netanyahu that are rivals. Could you imagine if this was the respect they showed to one another? You speak first. You speak first. Let me hear your opinion. Let me hear your opinion. You go in. I respect you. You're the great. They would tell each other, Rav Kook and Rav Chaim, you're the greatest Hamid Chacham. Would you imagine if we had that kind of, or in presidential debates, that kind of respect, and even if we take it on a lower level to ourselves, with other people in our lives, we show them that kind of respect. So it is possible. That was the level that Rav Kook was at. Mishnah Keva, and it says, and Rav Kook, when we saw his name written, it was Rav Abraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook. The fact that he was the Kohen was his pride and joy. And the job of the Kohanim, according to the Torah, they're supposed to be the ones teaching the Torah. And Aharon HaKohen, we know that he loves peace, and he runs after peace, and he loves people. And Rav Kook, as a Kohen, he sees himself as a continuation. He says, this is my job. I need to create peace with people. I need to create peace with the Haredim, with the Chalutzim, with the pioneers. And it's all done through love and understanding. And he really, really lived his life that way, which leads me to ask myself another question after hearing about how he did it. If I'm a part of the peace process in my life, recently on Shabbat, I spent the weekend by a friend's house. And one of the people, my friend's nephew was Haredi. And I have so many questions about the Haredi world because I'm not a part of it. And I asked him a million things, and he kept answering all the questions. And then I said, I know what to do. I think the way to bridge the gap between the Chilonim, the non-religious people, and the Haredim, and the Dati Leumim, there's 100 categories in Israel of like what kind of religious you are. He said, I think that the way to bridge it is by meeting each other. If I meet someone that's Haredi, and then they see me, and then I see them, the second you meet individuals, and it's not everyone or all those people, that's the way of peace. And then I asked myself, I said, Adele, what part are you taking in the peace process of Am Yisrael? Are you actively trying to make sure there's peace? Are you going and meeting different people? And I don't know. I don't know that I am. It's not what I do every day, go and meet new people and let me make peace. But it's something to ask myself, because imagine if we all said, I want to be an active part of Shalom among Am Yisrael in my family, what kind of world we would live in. And this was how Rav Kook lived his life. The people that did not like Rav Kook would insult him, and he would be walking along the way and they'd be throwing insults at him. There's a story that told he was in his house once and the window was open, and his enemy started to try to hit him. Like real stories, I'm not making it up. And how would he answer? The Chachamim say that a person should try to be someone who is that you get insulted but you don't insult back. That you hear all these negative comments but you don't retort, which is very, very hard if someone's insulting you and knocking you down not to retort back. And he never answered back. And then his students would say, until when? Okay, we get it in the beginning, you're not, but how much are you going to take it? Answer back already. And he said, look, I am the rabbi of Jerusalem. I'm the rabbi in the holiest city in the world. I live in a city of Talmidei Chachamim, of Tzadikim, and I'm not worthy of this title. I am filling shoes that are too big for me. This is not I'm not worthy to be this rabbi of Jerusalem. And he says, I want to ask you a question. If your shoes are too big, what do? You stuff something into them. If somebody can't find new shoes, he goes, you stuff straw into your shoes if your shoes are too big. He said, in Jerusalem, there's no shortage of straw. And you know what happens? When you put straw into your shoes to make it smaller, it pricks through the shoes. The straw pricks you. So that's how he looks at the fact that people aren't insulting him. I'm trying to think if I'm going to say it now. There was another time where, oh no, okay, I remember when it comes. I'm going to say this first. Not only did people verbally insult him, the ones that didn't agree with him, they would also print these public defamations, evil person, and nothing to do with him. And now, Rav Kook, he had a really, really nice relationship with we're gonna talk about it soon, but I'm gonna mention it now. He had a really great relationship with the British. He was living in the time under the British mandate when the British were in control of Yerushalayim, of Israel. And one day, the chief of police in Jerusalem, he saw a sign was put up on the wall slandering Rav Kook, and he arrested the people that did it. And then the president got arrested. He goes to the head of police. Please have pity on me, have pity. He goes, no, you should learn that you don't do these things to this rabbi. So then it comes to court. They beg the judge, please have pity. The judge says, no, you should learn. This is not the way you act. Then they go to the high commissioner, the British high commissioner, and they beg for mercy. And the British high commissioner says, no, you need to learn. This is not what you do. And then they said, okay, we have no choice. We need to go to Rav Kook. And they go to Rav Kook. And now, this is someone that's printing these slanderous things about him, asking him for his mercy, please. And Rav Kook, being the man that he is, of course, he forgives them. And he goes straight to the High Commissioner's office. And the High Commissioner is so shocked to see him, and especially for this, because it's against nature. Please forgive him, let them go off. It's okay, forgive. So he goes, well, if you're forgiving it, then I clearly have to, but he gave him a fine anyway. So that's the one story of how he dealt with these slanderous things. Another one, which is really beautiful, is they come to him and they go, Rav Kook, look at all these things they're publishing about you. He says, well, the publishing houses in Jerusalem, it's not like they have so much money. They need a living. So if the way they're going to get a living is by people printing slanderous things against me, then so be it. In the habit of writing recommendations to people. I said that he had very good relations with the British government. He was very well known, and a letter from Rav Kook means something. Like just like today, if you have a letter from, if the president is asking some letter from the president, it means something. So one day there was this man, and he had a daughter that was very sick. And the only cure was that she would have to go outside of Israel and get a certain operation. Now, one, it's super expensive to go to Israel. And two, even when she left and met this doctor, she would have to wait for a really long time because everyone wanted to go to this doctor. And the girl's dad knew that the only way that he could get an audience with his doctor is to go to Rav Kook and ask Rav Kook to write a letter of recommendation. Now, he's one of Rav Kook's enemies. Imagine you sit and insult someone and then you go, hi, can I have a recommendation, please? So this man was embarrassed, but he said, I need to save my daughter. This is my only choice. So he sent a rabbi, another great personality to learn about. He's going to be my next project, named Rav Aryeh Levine, who was one of Rav Kook's students. He said, could you please go to Rav Kook, ask him for a letter? I'm embarrassed still. And he goes to Rav Kook, and Rav Kook, he hears what Rav Aryeh says, and he says, I don't understand. What's the connection between my recommendation and the fact that there's disagreement between us? So that means I can't give him a recommendation because we disagree? You didn't even see the connection. If you want a recommendation, I'll give him a recommendation. The fact that he insults me, slanders me, that has nothing to do with this. But the fact that he's even able to separate it is remarkable. They didn't always understand how he was just so quick to not stand up for himself and to just, he just took all these insults, took all of them. And it got to a point, and they said, we know, Rabbi, that you're of the type of person, that you listen to the things that people tell you and you accept it, but up to what point? And his wife even got involved once, and she said, what about standing up for your honor, your respect? There's something to that. You need stand up for yourself. Why don't you do that? And after they all got everything else that they had to say, he looked at them quietly and said, the reason I am still giving recommendations to all these people that are against me is because one of the things that they accuse me of is that I do, here I have it in Hebrew, the quote, they blame me, even why I do all these things in Israel for my own honor, and I don't care about kavod shamayim. Now, if they think that that's at the root, that I don't care about kavod shamayim, then obviously I need to show them that is not for my own honor. And what better way to show that it's not for my own honor than not to defend my honor? So that was his practice. It didn't matter what people did to him. He treated everyone with love and with respect. Okay, hold on. Story, there was this rabbi that moved from Europe. He was a Hasidic rabbi, and he moved to Israel. And he said, I want to meet Rav Kook because I always hear about all these things from different sides, and how great he is, and how not great he is, and I want to make up an opinion for myself. I want to know what to believe. So he arranged a meeting with Rav Kook and made sure it would be at night so people wouldn't really stay. And he meets Rav Kook, and he's so impressed by him, by how smart he is and how kind he is, and he says, Rav Kook, I would love to meet you again. Rav Kook looks at him and says, family, and that you're not yet established here, and you don't have a base, and you have some followers, but kind of, and it's growing. Says, I know that the people that would be your followers don't really like me. So I don't really think it's going to be in your best interest to come visit me. Because if you come visit me, people aren't going to like you, and you need people to like you because you need to be based. You need a strong base. So he says, it's not for his own good if you come and visit me, which is really mind-blowing. There's people that don't like me, but because you need those people, don't come and visit me even though you want to. Like he was, the way that he's just so able to remove himself from that and not get into these personal feelings, and it has to hurt. And he's just on a different level. And what we're going to talk about in a few minutes is how he wasn't born this way. I mean, yes, he had amazing tendencies, but he wasn't born Rav Kook. He had to get there, and we're going to talk about how he got there and how he got to where he was. Before I want to tell you an amazing story. I don't know which, the story is just a little too great, that has to do with his relation with the British. So we said that he was in good terms with the British. And one day, a few days before Pesach, there was this ship with a lot of Jewish people that landed on the port of Haifa. And okay, it's almost Pesach, and obviously we want the Jews to come into Eretz Yisrael. And the British, they said, well, we can't let them in because we're filled to capacity, and we can't accept so many people. It would harm the land. When Rav Kook heard about it, he went and he had a meeting with the commissioner or the officer that was in charge, and he said, what is this? There's Jews on the boat waiting to come to Eretz Yisrael. You think you're going to send them back? Let them in. So the commissioner, he says, well, you have your laws and I have mine. My command says I can't let them in. There's a certain quota. We met the quota. They're not coming in. So then Rav Kook says, well, your laws are legal because they violate international law. So the man asked, what international law does this rule violate? Whose international law? What are you talking about? He said, the Jewish people follow international law. The international law is our Torah, given to us by God. And according to God, the Jewish people need to be in Eretz Yisrael. They need to move here. So it is illegal for you to stop them. Now, when this non-Jewish British officer heard the passion and conviction with which Rav Kook was speaking, he said, okay, I'll let them in. And what's he using as his defense? He's not saying, well, in 19 so-and-so, there was this UN said this. He's not using any of that. He says, God gave us the Torah. This is what it says. And this man is just so overwhelmed by it that he agrees. And I think it really shows that when a person believes so strongly in Torah and Mitzvot and is so sure that this is what's true, the truth shines through. And in Sefer Devarim it says that the nations will say that Bnei Israel, how intelligent they are, and it as a defense that the Torah is international law. That's what works. Today is big and beautiful, and there's a lot of room to pray, and there's chairs. It wasn't always like that. There was a period in time where you couldn't even bring benches. You've seen this picture that people are sitting on the benches. In 1913, you could bring benches again, and then 9 years later again, you can't. And the rules, there was a lot of tension in Rav Kook's time between Arabs and the Jews over the Kotel. Does the Kotel really belong to us? Is it theirs? The Arabs said, it's a kindness we're doing with you that we even let you pray there. Like all this tension back and forth. and you were not allowed to blow a shofar by the kotel. One Yom Kippur, they do tefillot there. Rav Kook wasn't there, but it has to do with him in the story. And a man decides, I don't care, I'm blowing the shofar. So after Ne'ilah, when you blow the shofar at the end of the fest, he blows the shofar and he gets arrested, thrown into jail. Rav Kook, he's in jail, he's sitting there for a few hours, he didn't eat, he didn't drink, but he's so pleased with himself and so happy that he was able to blow the shofar that he doesn't care. Midnight, the cell opens, the guard says, you're free. He leaves the jail and he sees Rav Kook's student standing outside, and it's late at night. He goes, what are you guys doing here? He said, well, right after you blew the shofar, we went to Rav Kook and we told him what happened, and he was so pleased that someone did that someone had the guts to blow the shofar. And then he asked what happened to you, and we said that you were taken to jail. And the second he heard that, he said, if this man is in jail and he's not eating or drinking, then I'm not eating or drinking until he's free. Yom Kippur, the fast just ended. If I picture myself after Yom Kippur, it's a race to get to the car to go home to eat because he's starving. And he goes, no, I'm just not going to eat then. And of course, right away, he made a phone call to the higher up, and he said, you need to let this man out of jail. And they let him out of jail in honor of Rav Kook. The compassion that Rav Kook had for the poor people knew no limits. People were constantly coming to him, and he would give whoever asked. And if he didn't have money, he told the men, he literally had no money to give him. I have no money to give you, but look at my bookcase. Rabbis always have a lot of books. Take any book you want off the shelf and sell it and have whatever money you need. His wife, she would cook food for Shabbat. People would come to the house and be starving, and he would give away the food that his wife cooked. And his wife, so there's like two similar stories. So I'll use, I in my head know what the versions are. So when this was, it was Rabbi in Yafo. She goes to this man named Meir Dizengoff and says, I don't understand why my husband's not getting a salary. Now his salary, it came from the Jewish people. Actually, the British were willing to pay his salary because they would pay the clergyman, and when he was chief rabbi, he was recognized to get his salary, but he refused because he said, I don't want to be dependent on the British. Anyway, the wife is trying to figure out why isn't Rav Kook's money coming home, and then they realized his salary is coming home. He's just giving it all away. He literally would take it and give it away to anyone that came, and then they arranged that his salary would go straight to his wife or straight to the grocery store. That way he couldn't give it away. And then the students asked him, Rabbi, why are you doing this? You have a family also. You have kids, you have a wife. Don't you need the money? How could you give everything you have away? And he said, yeah, the money. Well, no, he didn't say, yes, I need the money. I made up that line. He said, the difference is my family could get things on credit. If we go to the grocery store and say, give us milk, give us bread, they'll give it to us on credit of who I am. But these poor people have no credit. So I'd rather them get the money and me not. And that is just one example of the incredible compassion he had for the poor people. Visited Rav Kook once and said, Rav Kook, I have a son and he lives in America and he supports me. He sends me money. I'm old, he was an older man, and he sends me money. However, I'm not really sure if I could use the money because my son works on Shabbat. So I know some of the money is coming from when he works. Rav Kook looks at him and said, that your son does not keep Shabbat, doesn't keep the Torah mitzvah. He found one mitzvah that he's willing to do. He wants to do kibud av va'em. He wants to respect his parents. You're going to take that away from him. So this is Rav Kook. This is how he looks at things. And now we have about 10 minutes. I want to talk about the third love of his life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Rav Kook was a young student, so he spent time, there's a yeshiva in Europe called Yeshivat Volozhin, and Rav Kook spent time studying there. And late at night, the oil lamp would be burning and he'd be studying. And then, during the day he'd study too, but he'd study late into the night. And some of his roommates, other people in the building, they noticed that the lamp would always disappear in the day. And they wanted to know what happened. So they started investigating, and they found that the lamp was in the closet, and it had this note on it. And it said on the note, Shiviti Hashem Nigdi Tamid, I put God before me always. And the reason why Rav Kook took this lamp and hid it is because he didn't want people to know But that's what he had written on his lamp when he studied Torah. And why do you have that written on his lamp? Because he wanted to always make sure he stayed focused on the reason why he was studying and stayed focused in his studies. But he didn't want other people to know about it. So he put it away on the side. Kook is in his house, and the door is shut to his office. And a rabbi walks in because he has an important letter to give him. And the rabbi sees that the door is shut. And he did not for anything, but he eventually knocked, but he started listening, and he hears this cry coming from the door. And he listens carefully because he wants to hear what Rav Kook is doing, when he's reading, when he's studying. And he recognized Pesukim from the Nevi'im. And then he waits a little longer, and his voice changes, and he says, the way Rav Kook is reading his Pesukim of the Navi is almost as if he's experiencing a new Nevuah. He's getting the Nevuah himself. And he says, the way Rav Kook studied Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, he didn't study it. He prayed tefillah. It was a tefillah that came from his heart. He's reading Pesukim, but he's praying to God at the same time, and he's studying on this different level. And also, what another rabbi observed about him, he goes, I wish, but this is what the rabbi is saying, not Rav Kook, that my tefillah on Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah, is as good as Rav Kook's mincha during the week. Okay, if you pray mincha during the week, it's like not always the most convenient thing. The sun is setting. Oh, quick, you have to pray, or like it's in the middle of the day. And this rabbi is saying Rav Kook's mincha tefillah is better than my Yom Kippur Ne'ilah. And let's see what the next slide is. Born with this. Now, yes, he was extremely intelligent, and he's 9 years old. His teacher tells his father to take him out of school. There's nothing more I could teach him. However, something really important, and I'm going to pause for a minute and say in parentheses, when Chacham Ovadia Yosef passed away. So I went to a class by Rav Yosef Black, and he spoke about him, and he said, people always talk about Chacham Ovadia's memory, how it was an encyclopedia, and he was so smart. He goes, yes, it's all true. But people think like he just pressed download and it went into his mind. He didn't download anything. He sat and opened every single page of Gemara, day to day. He acquired the knowledge. And the same thing with Rav Kook. There's no download button. He sat day after day, hour after hour, night after night, opening the Gemara, opening the Torah. I had a chavruta, 16 years of Gemara with a friend, never skipped a night. And that's how you get to be the level of Rav Kook. If you put in the time, and it's work, but if you put it in, you see results. And that's what his pride and joy, and he dedicated his life to. He's constantly studying, and we're going to speak soon about the kind of things that he would write. One of the last stories that I want to share with you is a rabbi comes to his house one day, and it's freezing cold outside, and he sees Rav Kook pacing up and down and up and down and up and down the room. And then he touches his hands, and he sees that his hands are cold. And Rav Kook looks at this man, and he says, wait, let me just move my screen. Rav Kook says, "Ani kuli nisras avati laHashem yitbarach. Hagam ata chashken?" Rav Kook said he's walking, and he's supposedly cold because his fingers are cold. And he goes, "I'm pacing up and down because I'm burning in love for Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Do you also feel that way?" And this was the man, a man who burned with fire and love for God at all times. And this was gotten through his love of God's Torah, through Eretz Yisrael, through people, and he literally lived his life that way. That after learning myself about how much Torah Rav Kook studied and how much he seriously invested, I asked myself, you didn't study Torah every day. Of the 24 hours, not the ones that you're sleeping, the ones that you're awake, how many Pesukim are you reading? What do you do with your time? Rav Kook took his time seriously, and look what results of it. So it leads me to question, like, maybe I could, not maybe, I definitely could spend more time studying Torah. He wrote over 20 books, and one of his works that he was involved in was something called Halacha Berura. He said if you read the Gemara, and then you read Shulchan Aruch Rambam, which talks about the Halacha, but the connection and how it got to that, sometimes people lose the connection. So he wanted to find a way to merge that. And he other than writing in Halacha, he would also write in belief and philosophy, and Rav Kook was good at everything. There was not a field of study which he did not know, did not touch. And he quoted once, there's a philosopher, Immanuel Kant, and what Kant said is, I'm a man of philosophy and of abstract thinking, and if I need a break, then what I do is I need to be involved in solid physical things. I need to look at a mountain or a river or a road. Rav Kook said, I'm a man of feeling and emotion. When I feel like I need a break and I need to stand on something solid, I immerse myself in Halacha because that's solid ground for me. He established the office of the chief rabbinate. He believed that if we had one central body, that it would be good for Am Yisrael. He also believes a rabbi cannot take any political stance. He said, because the nature of a political party is you want things to be better for you, and that comes at the expense of other people. He goes, but as a rabbi, how could I side with people knowing that it's going to be worse for other people? So that was one of the things he believed. And he also tried to establish his general kashrut. Could you imagine today if there's only one kashrut? There's not, but that was also something that he established. He was the first chief Ashkenazi rabbi, and there's also a Sephardic one that goes along with it. Now, I have some book recommendations for you. Rav Kook published over 20 books in Halacha and Emunah, and if you are at all inspired by this unbelievable man and you want more, there's no better way to get to know Rav Kook than by reading his books. So read his books. I really encourage you to read his books. So I already started my next project because I want to learn about Rav Ayer Levine, but I also, my next study project, I said I want to learn more Torah. I'm really going to start studying Rav Kook's work. If you understand Hebrew, that's amazing because his Hebrew is so beautiful and he had such an appreciation for poets. He himself as a poet, that the full depth of his work you can understand if you read in Hebrew. If not, you can read in English. Amazon has tons of things. So I recommend you to read his books. Another recommendation I have, all the stories that I told you came from this book, which is right here, An Angel Among Men. You can buy it on Amazon. Now, I read it in the Hebrew version, so it took me a lot longer because when you live in Israel, you don't have Amazon and it's not available on the Kindle. You have to do these kind of things. But if you want to know more about him, there's so much more to tell. I became a better person from reading this book. I really, really did. A friend texted me last night and he said something slightly negative, and I was about to answer back, and then I said it down. You just read about Rav Kook. You can't say anything negative. You have to love everybody. And then I didn't really answer back. So read about him. I also now want to give you a recommendation for your next trip to Israel. On Rav Kook Street, where you probably have been if you've been to Tico House, which is an amazing Italian restaurant. It's called Kook Street because Rav Kook's house is on that street. It's a fantastic place to go and visit. You could see where he used to live, some of his books, his desk, a short movie about him, and you can learn more about who he is. Highly recommend. And to just summarize some of the things we spoke about. So we opened up with Hana Zakim, and we said that his grave was the only one not destroyed because the Arabs were so in love with him too that they didn't want to destroy it. We spoke about his 3 loves for Israel, for people, for God. Spoke about the game getting recess, so he'd pretend to be going to Israel. That his love for Eretz Yisrael, for the flowers, for the mountains, his love for the pioneers, how he would accept people at all hours of the day, how much he loved peace, his compassion even for people that didn't like him, and the charity he showed to others, the fire of God that burned within him, how he established the chief rabbinate, some book recommendations, and a suggestion to visit his house. And I just want to close with, I forgot something. Some questions that I think we can ask ourselves, that I asked myself, is in light of Rav Kook, is what is my connection to the land of Israel? Do I promote peace among the people of Israel? What is my relationship to God, Nor the A, and the Torah? And open with this grave of Rav Kook, who prided himself in the fact that he lived in Eretz Yisrael, that he lived in Yerushalayim, that he was, the Arabs respected his grave and did not destroy it. And now we see why. Hopefully after this last hour that we spent together, learning about the amazing things of Rav Kook, we know that he very well deserves and was worthy of this honor of his grave being preserved. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I had a really, really great time.